Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. Pistol braces have been the big news lately. Tons of channels have been doing videos on them, my channel included. Today's video is not going to be necessarily about what the next update to the whole pistol brace saga is, because there's a lot of that information out there already. What I'm going to talk about here today is why pistol braces prove that the NFA is obsolete and that SBRs should not be a regulated firearm, and that the whole point of regulating pistol braces or SBRs is absolutely ridiculous. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical, hit that bell notification, and let's talk about this. So like I said, everybody is concerned about pistol braces, braced AR, AK pistols, MP5s, whatever, pistol length barrels with a brace on them. And what the ATF is doing right now to try to get everyone into a de facto gun registry by giving us all free tax stamps. And I've gotten a ton of comments on the videos that I've done about this. Lots of people saying, do not comply, I will not comply, all that. And if that's what you're going to do, I fully support you. But remember this. If you have pistol braces on your firearms, you have been complying already. Otherwise, you would have just had a stock on your guns. So any of us that have been running pistol braces have already been complying. The whole reason we had pistol braces was not to have illegal SBRs, not to be committing felonies, be able to take our firearms wherever we choose without possibly getting any kind of legal trouble for it. And pistol braces were a great thing because of that. And the ATF has gone out and said, well, yeah, they're just a workaround to get around the NFA so that, people can basically have SBRs because they know that everyone is shouldering these things. And while that may be true, so what? Who cares? And this is my point. So the other side of that is all the people that are saying, well, sweet, free tax stamp. So I'm sure some people were thinking about SBRing certain guns anyway. I always felt like this one would be a good one to SBR. But I didn't really want to go through the whole process. I'm already doing it with a suppressor. It takes forever. Costs extra money, although possibly not for the next 120 days. But it shouldn't be something that anybody should be forced into. Well, my thing is this. The ATF is an illogical agency. And the whole federal government, especially under the Biden administration, and what we've got going on right now, all the gun control people, none of them think logically. They don't understand enough about firearms, but they don't even look at the numbers and at history and what's going on, crime numbers, all that stuff. Because if they did, for one, they wouldn't be trying to do this. I get that the ATF is going back and they're like, oh my gosh, we made these things legal. Everyone is using them as stocks. These should be classified as SBRs. But you know what? All this proves to me is that SBRs shouldn't be regulated guns. Because for 10 years, literally a decade last month, since SB Tactical put out the first SIG brace, these have been selling like crazy. Both firearms with pistol braces on them, like this one came, or just people building their own firearms and putting pistol braces on them, like those two. And for good reason. They work okay if you're going to put it around your arm and use it one-handed, but they work a lot better if you're going to shoulder it. And I'm not going to pretend anymore that people aren't shouldering them. People were definitely using them for that. But was it hurting anyone? Was it putting anyone in danger? Were pistol braced firearms used in any significant amount of crime? No, they were not. There is no numbers that show that pistol braced firearms are some ridiculous, dangerous thing, dangerous and unusual. They're not, and they're in common use. So by that logic, they shouldn't be able to be regulated. And if the ATF says that these are all SBRs, short-barreled rifles, well then that makes short-barreled rifles also not dangerous and unusual, and it also puts them in common use. Between 10 to 40 million people with braced pistols, not to mention all the people with actual registered SBRs, and no measurable amount of violent crime associated with them. So what does this tell me? I'm sure you're drawing the same conclusion right now, or you already have. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with SBRs. If the ATF is saying that these are short-barreled rifles, well then short-barreled rifles haven't been a problem, and tons of people own them and use them responsibly and are perfectly safe with them. And, you know, they take them out shooting, they use them for recreation, they have them as home defense firearms, because this, or especially this, is about the perfect platform for home defense. A short, easy to maneuver firearm with rifle caliber, rifle cartridge power. I mean, that's hard to beat. It's about perfect for home defense. They're good truck guns, and they're really fun to shoot. And certain calibers like 9mm, 300 blackout, excel out of short barrels, especially if you're going to put like a suppressor on it. A 16-inch barrel with a suppressor becomes a very long, unwieldy, modern musket. And I don't want that. I know some people do, but I want to suppress my shorter guns, because then even with a suppressor, they're not super long. But my point is, these have not been a problem. And so I get that people don't want to comply, that they're not going to remove their pistol braces, they're not going to destroy them, and they're not going to register them. And there's people that are going to register them to get their free tax stamp. And you're going to have to choose what you want to do, just as I'm going to have to choose what I'm going to do. But there are lots of bills just in the last week, 2 weeks, that have been introduced in both the House and the Senate. There have been bills to abolish the ATF. I did a video about that. There have been just a recent bill to repeal the NFA, and that is where I think we need to focus our efforts. Now, I don't want pistol braces to go away, because I paid good money for these things, and they've worked just fine for me. But stocks are definitely better. This B5 system, SOP mod stock, I would put it on all of these if it wasn't a crime to. But if your brace is the same crime as the stock, well, what's to stop anyone from just putting stocks on their firearms then? What's to stop you from just drilling the third hole and installing the giggle switch? Right? If it's all going to be the same crime anyway. But the thing is, none of this should be a crime in the first place. And if the ATF was logical in any way, they would recognize that. Because by their logic, these are SBRs, since people have been shouldering them. Well, then by that same logic, SBRs haven't been causing any problems, so SBRs shouldn't be regulated. And while we're at it, why are suppressors regulated? They're a safety device. All they do is save your hearing. They don't make your gun into some crazy, quiet sniper machine. They just don't do that. They just make it hearing safe, if you're lucky. Most other countries that allow firearms, some of them make you put a suppressor on your gun so that it's not a public nuisance. The United States has the most firearm ownership per person, I think, of any country in the world. There's more guns than people. 400 million firearms out there. And suppressors are something that we have to go through this lengthy, ridiculous process. They have to prove that you're a good enough person to quiet your gun down. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the whole NFA is ridiculous. And I'm sure many of you agree with me on that. And while I don't want pistol braces to go away, because I believe that we should have the rights to own whatever firearms that we want to, and if that's a pistol brace, then that's a pistol brace. But we never would have even had pistol braces if it wasn't for basically this piece of plastic being illegal on your shorter gun. And that's just ridiculous to me. This gun somehow, for the last 10 years, is considered dangerous and unusual if I have that piece of plastic on it. But not dangerous or unusual with this piece of plastic and Velcro on it. Although now, all of a sudden, they're the same thing. When really, there's nothing unusual about them. Everyone owns AR pistols now. AK pistols, B&Ts, MP5s, Dracos, all these things. Anything with a shorter barrel that people put a stock on, they're some of the most popular firearms there are. And if they're being used in any greater amount of crime, it's only because there are more of them out there for the criminals to get their hands on. It's not because criminals are picking braced pistols by any means. Most criminals are using like Glocks with switches. They're using high points. They're stealing guns, or they're getting them from people that stole them, or people that did straw purchases for them. They're not gun, guys. They're not building out the perfect AR setup that they want. That's just not what they're doing. Criminals are getting whatever they can to go rob a liquor store, do whatever criminals do, and criminals aren't going to follow these laws anyway. So if they had the choice, they never would have used a pistol brace anyway. They just would have put a stock on it because they're already criminals. So this whole thing only attacks you and me, the lawful, responsible gun owner, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I've put out video after video, and I'm very against this whole pistol brace thing. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm hoping is that because of this, that there is a renewed push to get rid of the NFA. I think that we have not a whole great chance to get rid of the ATF at this moment in time. And honestly, these bills to get rid of the NFA, to Stop Harassing Owners of Rifles today, the SHORT Act, these bills, while they might pass Congress, with Joe Biden in the White House, there's a very slim chance of him actually signing them into law. I'm a realist. I recognize that. It's unfortunate. What's really unfortunate is that the Republicans that finally have a slight majority are only now trying to put these bills through that would do the things that we all want. Repeal the NFA, get rid of the ATF, just stop harassing gun owners. Why didn't they do it when they had a majority and a Republican president, when we probably could have actually got some of this stuff passed? And so that's one of those things where it's like, I see these bills and they make me excited that there are people in our government that at least act like they want to do the same things that you and me want them to do. Although they do it when it has a very slim chance of actually doing anything. But still, at least it is putting the light on the ATF, and that they have become this rogue agency that has been weaponized against, perfectly law-abiding citizens, just in order to infringe on our rights instead of actually going after criminals, people that are violent and committing crime, causing problems. They just want to make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And anything that's introduced in Congress that puts the spotlight on the ATF and what they are doing, I'm all for. Whether it passes or not is, remain to be seen. But I'm also hoping to see some real lawsuits come out soon from Gun Owners of America, Firearms Policy Coalition, Second Amendment Foundation, even the NRA. Whatever organizations are supposed to have our back, hopefully they do. And while I do hope that they do whatever they can to protect our right to keep pistol braces, what I really hope is that this whole thing just proves that the NFA is pointless anyway, and trying to regulate someone for having a shorter barrel and having this piece of plastic versus this piece of plastic on the back of their gun is a ridiculous concept that is obsolete. It's a concept from the 30s that doesn't apply to anything realistic today. And so I hope that that is where this leads. I know I kind of got about it in a roundabout way. This is something I care a lot about. I've got 3 braced pistols. I don't want to have to register them. But at the same time, I'd definitely rather run stocks on them. Right? Wouldn't we all? The fact that we've been having to run these pistol braces at all is ridiculous. But better than nothing. So I hope that this gave you guys some kind of information. Maybe you've already thought about this. If you had, let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you just want the pistol brace rule to go away? Would you rather the NFA go away? Of course. Would you run a stock if you could? If you're not going to comply, are you going to still run a pistol brace? Probably not. Anyway, please let me know down in the comments. Please subscribe. Please share this video. Like this video. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.